So let's talk about data. Right now, there's the market data, which is the off-chain component. That still dominates the space because centralized exchanges have the wealth of the volume, and then you have the on-chain component, which over the last few months, it's really being you're seeing an uptake. Where would you see are the opportunities for startups if I were to start something today? To carve out a meaningful niche, or where do you see there's a gap in the space today?
So I think if you look at data today, the problem is that you have a lot of numbers, but the narratives around it is still not clear. So, and the reason for that is a lot of the data providers today are building for developers, right? So you're trying to sell to adapt. You're trying to sell to a quant fund, right? Like you're not trying to sell on the B2C side yet because you're not yet convinced that the market there is large, and especially when there is a downturn in the market. So I think what the blog did is quite brilliant, right? They have beautiful storytelling, but they also have data going along with it. And I think there is still a major gap there because people still want data-driven storytelling, and that's what I see with my blog every time. Like if I were to compete against a lot of the established industry folks, I would very likely struggle. But whenever I have data-driven storytelling, that sees a life of its own. So that's one. Second is how do you service to a VC analyst specifically? So when you take something like Crunchbase, it's built for analysts that does not want to, like, let's say, pull in data via your API. They don't want to deal with a lot of the technical side of things. So I think the easier you make that space, the higher the odds of you converting customers, especially on a case where you can add more value to it. But again, it's not like the space does not have enough startups, right? There are brilliant founders working on it, but I think the sales process may be a little broken because for a lot of the analysts and VCs that I speak to, like, these are very likely customers of theirs. Discovering them is a pain. So I think so if you optimize how you sell your data, there is likely an opportunity there. And the third is, I would say something like, I don't want to use the cliched Bloomberg term here, but I would still say that in spite of firms like Sentiment and Glassnode, a lot of these firms that bring these data sets together, I think Masari also does a great job. There is still a gap in terms of finding a good, reliable data source that gives me everything I need, right? Like, what's the one place I can go to every morning, get on-chain data, get the latest headlines, get up to date on which Telegram group is booming. There is still no single source for it. And a large part of the problem is, of course, sales is broken, and that also means your funding side is broken, right? You can't solve for this without at least a couple $1 million. So for founders, you have to be very, very smart in terms of how you go to market. You have to sell to very niche customer bases. You have to crack profitability very early on, and then likely raise a couple $1 million before you can really take a crack at some of those problems.